Once you've chosen the proper base point parameters for placing the tag down in the place you'd like, we now must choose how far from that base point we would like to offset this tag and how we'd like that tag to be angled once it's placed on the drawing. Now currently you can see that we've got the base point parameter center right selected, and therefore we've got these lang tags in this particular tutorial that are on the center right portion of these pieces of rectangular duct. However, you can see that they're directly over the duct's outline. So with that line running through the text, it's not going to look good on the drawing. Therefore, we would like to start from that base point, but we would like to move the text into the duct. Now to do that, we can use two different types of offset parameters. First, we have the offset parameters you see here, which offer two different types, the XYZs and the specials, and we're going to have tutorials on both. And the other way to offset text is using the shift text, both along and across. Now, along and across are actually better options in most situations. So what we're going to do is cover each offset option under the Advanced tab and show you where it might be good to use it and where we recommend using one over the other. The first two options we have in the offset field is the option to offset along the X or Y axes. Here we can choose the distance we'd like a specific tag to move from its base point parallel to the X axis, the Y axis, or both. You'll notice you have two different fields here. So we could say we'd like to move the tags over 8 inches on the X axis. Here we're going to put in 8. When we do 8, Practicad will move the tag 8 inches to the right for all of the tags inside a given selection set. If we were to say -8, it would move the tags 8 inches over to the left. The y-axis, the positive numbers would go up and the negative numbers would go down. So right here what we're going to do is say on the y-axis we're going to move it up 6 inches. We hit 6, you can see that the tag will go up 6 inches parallel to the y-axis. If we type in -6, it'll move them down 6 inches. So using the X and Y parameters can be useful, but usually only if the duct is going at angles that are parallel to the X or Y axes. It's actually difficult to use X and Y offsets to get your text to be positioned correctly on duct that's on an angle. And that's why we have the along and across parameters we're going to go over. Now one of the options we have is to offset along the Z-axis, and the Z-axis means along the elevation axis. If we choose axis Z and we leave it at 0, that means that the tag will be placed at the dead center line of the entity. If we give it a positive number, it's going to move up in that value up in elevation. If we give it a negative number, we're going to move it down in elevation. What we're going to do here is we're going to focus on a lang tag we've got in the duct. And currently we've got the axis Y set at 5, so it's right above the duct line. But we have the axis Z set at 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to press OK and run this automatic. And when we run this automatic along the duct, you're going to see that that tag happens to be at the center line of the duct. And we can see that if we go into the left view. Here you can take a look and notice that the tags are right at the center line of the duct. So axis Z parameter, if set to 0, means center line of duct. Now if it's at the center line of duct, it would be logic to realize that the tags are inside the duct. And therefore, if we go to run a visual style like hidden, we are not going to see the tags, nor are we going to see it if we choose the realistic or shading style. So one of the reasons we might want to move the tags up or down is to move them just above the duct so that we can see the tags in a different visual style. To do that, we're going to go back into the Auto Tag button and we're going to go to the placement parameter. And what we're going to do here in this particular automatic, under placement, right here under axis Z, we're going to say 10 inches. And that's going to move the tags up 10 inches from the center line of the duct they're being attached to. So if we press OK and then we run this automatic again, now you can actually see the text because the text is just a little bit above the duct we attached it to. So this is a really good reason for using the Z-axis to make sure your tags are not inside the duct but above it or below it, so we can see it in these particular views. The last offset type we have currently is the option for special offset. Now this offset is exactly what it's named. It's a highly specialized offset only used in particular for elbows. To explain how this offset works, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to choose the base point heel. Now this offset usually only works for the throat base points and heel base points. And what we're going to do here is we're going to choose heel first. When we choose the base point heel, you can see in the preview that the tag, the center of that tag, is directly at the heel of this elbow. Now imagine we were to draw a line that goes from the heel of the elbow directly to the throat of the elbow. Kind of like the line that veins, turning veins, would be placed parallel to. A line from the heel to the throat. And what we're going to do here is we're going to change the special offset to show you how changing the value for special offset will move this tag either away from the duct along that line or towards the duct or into the duct parallel to that line. If we say let's move it 10, you can see that it's moving the tag exactly 10 inches away from the heel of the elbow, parallel to the line we just told you to imagine from point to point. If we were to say negative 10, it would move it 10 inches into the fitting along that line. So positive numbers move it away from the fitting, parallel to that line. Negative numbers move it into the fitting. It would be the same if you chose the throat. Here we're going to choose throat 1, and we're going to set it back at 0. You can see where the tag would start at the throat. The center is usually offset from the throat. Now if we give the value 10, it's moving the tag 10 inches parallel to the line but away from the fitting. And if we said negative 10, it's going to be 10 inches into the fitting. There are a lot of different types of tags in Practicad that need to sit by the heels or the throats of elbows, and the special offset makes it a lot easier to place these particular tags down. So it generally means moving away from the fitting or into the fitting. And there's a couple different uses for this, and we'll go over it in separate exercises, but the first reason for building it was originally intended for elbows. But it does work with boot taps and a couple other different fittings in the software. So that will conclude the tutorial on these two particular offset parameters, the X, Y, Z, and special. Next we'll move on to text direction.